Hello, dear students. This is the month of January 2026, and the new resolution that I have taken in this year is that I will read books for my students. As you all know, I am Associate Professor in the Department of History, Isabella Thoburn College. History has always fascinated me. I can always go into history. I want to know more about history. I dream about history. And since beginning till now, what is happening, what happened yesterday, everything is history. They say some call it contemporary history, something is known as ancient Indian history, modern medieval Indian history, and the day by day what is going on is contemporary history. But everything comes into history. See, history is something that always fascinated human beings. These days, youth is very busy. They are so much involved in studies. Their curriculum is very much, they have got wide syllabus. And it's a sad part that our students are not getting enough time to read, although they all want to read. So I have decided that I will read for them, and whichever book I am reading, I'll share it with them. So it will be the best thing that apart from their syllabus book, they will know more about books and what is in that. So whenever they get time in future, they want to read, they can just go through it, and they can go to the libraries, they can buy those books and they can read it. But I will read small pieces for them. So the first book that I have chosen today is The British Makeover of India, Indigenous Education and Languages Downgraded. It is written by Meenakshi Jain. And about the historian, if I say, Meenakshi Jain ji is a very, very renowned historian. And it is written also, Meenakshi Jain is a historian interested in culture and religious developments in Indian history. In 2020, she was awarded Padma Shri by the Government of India for her contribution in the field of literature and education. And there are so many number of books she has written. So I should not go much into that because Meenakshi Jain ji is not an unknown personality, and whoever wants to know more about her, they can Google her. But I am very thankful to all the historians who have worked hard to bring the history to the present generation. And Meenakshi Jain ji has done it in a very nice way, because history account, when people say history is not written correctly, I never agree. I always say history is written correctly, but it is not described properly. Whenever we are describing or uncoding the date, right, we have to describe it with a positive mindset. So whenever I am reading Meenakshi Jain ji, I always feel that she is having great regards for the culture of India, and every Indian should have that. We must not degrade ourselves. Whenever we read, okay, Indian societies were never perfect, why should we accept that? The foreign historians, they have some of them have given very correct account, but later on when the description was given, of course it was not that accurate. In every society there will be some positive or some negative points, but why to enhance those negative points so widely that we downgrade the positive points? So when I was reading about Meenakshi Jain ji, I came to know especially about education and indigenous education. We had great methods. Even in rural area, in schools. When I was young, we used to recite in arithmetic. We used to recite tables. Today also, if you go to small schools, like not very branded, and those schools, still teachers, they prefer their students to recite and by heart. So we have, from Vedic period, we used to by heart things. We used to impart knowledge from one generation to another. So she has given very beautiful account of indigenous education. And when I was reading, first I will narrate how many the book first. So this is that was the cover page that I have already shown you all. This is the cover page. It's a beautiful, nice. This picture is there, and the front page of this book is this way. It is published by Aryan Book International, New Delhi, and this is written. And chapterization, contents. Contents are introduction, early beginnings, some accounts of indigenous education. I was reading this third one, some accounts of indigenous education. So I'll be sharing two accounts from indigenous education, two examples. One is given here. I may be not pronouncing the name properly, but pardon me for that, because this is an Italian nobleman, Pietro della Valle, and he came, his time period is given 1586 to 1652. And one account that he observed in Tenai school in a temple porch in Ikeri, capital of Kaladi. So he has given one very beautiful account. There one small picture also is given. I will read it for you. I entertained myself in the porch of the temple, beholding little boys learning arithmetic after a strange manner, which I will here relate. They were 4, and having all taken the same lesson from the master. In order to get that same by heart and repeat likewise their former lessons and not forget them, one of them singing musically with a certain continued tone, recited part of the lesson, as for example, 1 by itself makes 1, and whilst he was thus speaking, he write down the same number, not with any kind of pen nor on paper, but with his finger on the ground, the pavement being for that purpose strewed all over with very fine sand. After the first hand write what he sung, all the rest sung and write down the same thing together. Then the first boy sung and write down another part of the lesson, as for example, 2 by itself makes 2, which all the rest repeated in the same manner, and so forward in order. When the pavement was full of figures, they put them out with the hand, and if need were, strewed it with new sand from a little heap which they had before them, wherewith to write further. And thus they did as long as the exercise continued. In which manner likewise they told me they learned to read and write without spoiling paper, pen, or ink, which certainly is a pretty way. I asked them if they happened to forget or be mistaken in any part of the lesson, who corrected and taught them, they being all scholars without the assistance of any master. They answered me and said true. That it was not possible for all 4 of them to forget or mistake in the same part, and that thus they exercised together, to the end that if one happened to be out of other might correct him. Indeed, a pretty easy and secure way of learning. So this is the other account. I will read the other account also. It is written by Fra Polanio da Bartolomeo. It is. I will read it Bartolomeo. Rest you all can read So he has also given his account. He visited India from 1776 to 1789. And we must remember this is the Mughal era. Mughal era, 15 also is Mughal era. So they are visiting. In Mughal era, they used to visit. So he has written an account, and very beautiful account he has written. The education of youth in India was much simpler and not near so expensive as in Europe. The children assemble half naked under the shades of coconut tree, place themselves in rows on the ground, and trace out the sand with the forefinger of the right hand the elements of their alphabets, and then smooth it with the left. They wish to trace out other characters. The writing master called again, who stationed himself opposite to his pupils, examines what they have done, points out their faults, and shews them how to correct it. At first, he attends them standing, but when the young people have acquired some readiness in writing, he places himself cross-legged on the tiger's or deer's skin, or even on a mat made out of leaves of the coconut tree or wild ananas, which is called kaida, plaited together. This method of teaching writing was introduced into India 200 years before the birth of Christ. According to the testimony of Megasthenes, and still continues to be practiced. No people perhaps on earth have adhered so much to their ancient usages and customs as the Indians. A schoolmaster in Malabar receives every month from each of his pupils for the instruction given them 2 fanon or panam. Some do not pay in money but give him a certain quantity of rice, so that this expense becomes very easy to the parents. There are some teachers who instruct children without any fee and are paid by the overseer of the temple or by the chief of the caste. When the pupils have made tolerable progress in writing, they are admitted into certain school called Itupalli, where they begin to write on palm leaves, pana, which were several of them are stitched together and fastened between 2 boards, form a grantha, that is an Indian book. If such a book be written upon with an iron style, is called granthavari or lakya, that is writing, to distinguish it from alakya, which is something not written. When the guru or teacher enters the school, he is always received with the utmost reverence and respect. His pupils must throw themselves down at full length before him, place their right hand on their mouth, and not venture to speak a single word until he gives them express permission. Those who talk and prate contrary to the prohibition of their master are expelled from the school as boys who cannot restrain their tongue and who are consequently unfit for the study of philosophy. By these means, the preceptors always receives that respect which is due to him. The pupils are obedient and seldom offend against rules which are so carefully inculcated. The chief branches taught by the Guru are: first, the principle of writing and accounts I think. Second is Sanskrit grammar, which contains the declension and conjunctions. In Malabar, it is called Siddharuba, but in Bengal, Saraswada, or the art of speaking with elegance. The second part of this grammar, which contains the syntax or the books of Vyakaran, It is written Vyakarna, but it is Vyakaran. So this way he tells lot of things. He gives a very good narration. Today I have chosen to give this much only, and now we will discuss little bit on these methods. We were so rich. He has given in his account that India has been following this teaching learning method since 200 before the birth of Christ. That also it is written by Megasthenes. When Megasthenes came, he saw that this method was followed. Before Megasthenes also, Indians were following the same method. So India itself was very rich in education and imparting that education. But later on, when Britishers came, they felt they needed cheap clerks, and they wanted a new education system for their for their selfish purposes only. Some of the British officers, they wanted this indigenous education system to be continued. But later on, after reading this book, I came to know that later on, with the because of the will of missionaries and evangelists, they wanted to bring English education system to this country, because indigenous education system was different in each part. India, as we all know, we are a group of so many languages, and this is the uniqueness of India, that apart from being so different, we are very different, but still we are one. So if anyone wants to know what is unity in diversity, they must come to India and they must see India. So we have to feel proud for that. But those English rulers of ours, for them sometimes it was a problem. So they wanted to bring one system of education, and then they introduced English education. Although it was a loss for us, because we had a very beautiful system of education which was destroyed bit by bit, slowly. And later on we were given names, backward country. But in reality, this is not true. India was always rich in education and imparting their knowledge from one generation to another. So after reading this piece, I hope you will think over it, about the rich legacy of education in India. And if you come across this book, The British Makeover of India, Indigenous Education and Languages Downgraded, please do read it. I am still reading it. Again, I will share a small piece if I feel like sharing with you all. And the whole book is very fascinating. Once I started reading it, I was not able to keep it back. So thank you so much for watching this video, and from now onwards, every week I'll be sharing one book review with you all. Thank you so much.